been setting all the context for the last few meetings by starting with ServiceNow as the AI platform, and there's 6 enterprise class portfolios around that platform. Before we start, I always make sure that I'm clear on the content we're going to present today. One, to make sure that people on the call have interest in those areas, and two, just so you can kind of get the right frame of mind to listen into what I'm going to show you. So today we're going to focus on our CRM component, a little bit of app dev, and AI agents. So we're going to use quite a few pieces of the platform to put a story together for you for the use case that we'll demo. So my name is John Spirko. You're stuck with me today as the main speaker. We don't have any guest speakers today. And what I'll go through is I've been sharing some of the content. So in this deck, you'll see I have some content. And a lot of people are getting value. I've had a bunch of comments about the value that they get from the slides that they take away here. So I will provide these slides so that you can use them in internal conversations. We'll go into a live demo. And unfortunately, this one is not going to be in our instance because I have a lot of AI configuration on it. We'll talk about agents, Now Assist skill kits. So what I want to do is I want to show you on the picture kind of the theory of the AI pieces. And then I'm going to show you which pieces we're actually going to take and we're going to put into use in our use case. Okay. And that use case is going to be citizen development. And then at the end, we'll kind of open it up. We'll talk about some futures. And it should be a good session today. All right, so let's dive into the pieces a little bit. And this is the content that I said I'll go ahead and share with you. All these pieces that are highlighted will have specific drill downs. So for example, I'm going to use the generative AI controller today. You go ahead and click on the generative AI controller. It'll bring you down to a screen that tells you what that is. And then if you click on this navigation back up here, it'll take you back to that main screen. So I've used the deck that some of you may have, the whole deck, but only the pieces that are highlighted will have the drill downs. Today, we're going to talk about AI search. So this gives you a little bit of detail about AI search, enough to be dangerous, right? And then you can come back up and go back up to the slide. So a couple of the pieces I want to show you in action today, so you have an understanding of the fit for them in a custom use case. One is going to be the Now Assist skill kit. So the Now Assist skill kit, it'll say that you're building custom skills. So here you're building something that I could use in a form, like summarization is one of the things that we give you out of the box. But if you wanted to tell it in a form, do something else, go out and go to Google and look something up or do something else. These are what the skills will do. You basically give, and then you can use that skill even in a workflow. And that's where I'm going to use the skill today. So we're going to develop a custom prompt and then use that prompt in a real workflow. Okay, I'm going to use also the agents. So what we'll see here is AI agents in action, and I'll tell you where they come into play, especially when we're talking about conversational interfaces. And this is a part that I'll kind of end us with because it talks a lot about the future direction of where we're going with these transactional type interfaces. We'll be a little bit inside IT service management. So any of these that are the products that are in the portfolios will have more of a drill down. So if I go into customer service management and I want to look at what are the frontline cases, right? You can go down into that and I could drill back up to CSM, or I can drill all the way back to the main slide. All right, so that should give you some ways to go in and at least see the pieces that I use afterwards. So if you need that general information, you don't have to go look it up in the docs. You can just come to the deck, make sure you're in presentation mode, and then you can poke around the deck, whatever you need. The Now Assist virtual agent, when we say Now Assist for virtual agent, the part we're mostly talking about is this genius result. So we're not just going in and in the virtual agent doing a search with AI search and bringing back some knowledge articles and catalog items, but instead we're giving you that summary in the Now Assist. We're giving you that summary inside the agent before we give you the individual pieces like we show down here. Okay. Any questions on any of the other pieces? If you do, just go ahead and post it in the chat. If there's any questions on anything, I'll make sure I check back on that once in a while. All right, so let's put those pieces into action. And the use case I'm going to use today, I'm not going to go into a full-blown demo. I've demoed the digital product factory before, but I just want to give you a high level of what it does. We have these templates that we use, and they're templates that are for our industries. So there's one for financial services, there's one for government, there's one in here for higher education, and there's more that you can add. So you can add as many of these templates as you want. And then what they do is they give instructions for AI that say, how do you build an application for this industry? And it's specific use cases, and you'll see more of that when we get to the demo. So it's going to take one of those templates, right? Whatever one you ask it, and you're going to ask it for one of those templates in a typical catalog request. And then after you get that request, it's going to go ahead and give you, I picture it like sitting in the car wash when I was a kid and watching my mom's car go through the car wash, right? You're kind of watching it get made here. You're watching the production, right, of that car wash. So here from end to end, you're watching the factory actually do all the things that it does. And I'll explain what they are during our demo. But after you submit it, it's just basically a request tracking that it's going to give you to show you where your request is. After it builds it, it's going to run a workflow behind the scenes. And this is where AI starts to come into the picture. And that's what I'm going to focus on, the AI pieces today. As long as you know the use case is to build an application on top of a specific industry data model, like higher education or government or finance or healthcare life sciences. Now, at the end, what it's going to do, it's going to take some basic requirements for you, including telling me what template you want to use. And then at the end, it's going to send you an email, and it's going to tell you that your product is ready. So it takes about 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how much processing is in the template. But this part is where this wouldn't have been possible a year ago without AI. So some of the things I'm doing in here, you'll see that AI has to be there in order to do it. And then the future is just mind-boggling, like where these types of use cases can go. So where we used to put in a demand or put in an idea that turns into a demand, that turns into a project, and now you get a BRM that's starting to see what the requirements are. So with this, you're putting in some general ideas and it's building you an app in 10 minutes. That's the idea behind it, is to get you a very quick prototype and then to let you rev on that prototype. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into the factory and show you what that looks like. I'm not going to run a whole one and we're not going to wait for the build and everything, but I want you to see the different pieces in action. And I'll start with the registered templates. So the digital product factory is an app that I built on ServiceNow, and registered templates is the one table that the app has. A registered template here could be like a public records request or on the government service model, or an insurance claim, which is the example we're going to use today in financial services. The other things that we have in the model, besides just because this is going to run an app template, but the other things we have in the model tells me what else do they need to get started? What else do they need to actually use that app right out of the gate? So the other things that they need is they need to know, where is this going to be? What portal am I going to park all of these services that get built in when it's done? And then it needs to know, what type of privileges does the agent need in order to start working on that application? It's also going to say, do I have a product model? So any of the architecture is getting built with this as well. So it's not just a factory like you've seen before where hey, here's your form, now you can get started. It's all the tables, the permissions, the users, all of the data structure, and everything you need to get started is all built already by the application. Okay, then what we'll go ahead is I'm going to start with just a basic interface, which is the one that you're all familiar with. And later we'll talk about some conversational interfaces. But this is basically saying, what template do you want to use? What's the name of the product? In this case, I'm doing kind of a mixture of a government case and an insurance case, but we're using the insurance data model. So we're doing workers' compensation for the state of Nebraska. And then here, what I'm able to say is, who do I want to email? At the end of this, I'm going to send them a copy of the app so that they could start to work on it and look at and use the app. And then where AI comes in here is, let's say I need some additional services that I don't have in the template. So what I could do here is I'm saying, okay, also include a first notice of loss service and a data filing service, which lets me include other evidence on that claim down the road. So this is where AI is going to say, hey, those things aren't in the template. Let me go do some research on what those things are. And I want to build a front end piece. I want to build an agent piece. And I also want to build the data model so that everything's there when the user comes in and they can start using all these different. Okay. So what happens after I submit this, and I ran this one last night, but it's going to go ahead and this is what it shows you, like where you are in the factory. So from the intake, it's going to build an application template. So this gives you all of your tables, your data model. It's going to configure all your users. So it's going to create an end user. If the end user doesn't exist, it's going to create an agent that's specifically dedicated to this application. And it's going to create all of your citizen developers. So if you put 4 emails on that citizen developer line, it will give them delegated development access to this one application only. Then it's going to build all my models. So this builds the industry data models. And when I say that, I mean the CSM models as well as the CSDM models. And I'll show you what that looks like. But it's going to build all those so they're all out of the gate. Part of your bill of materials for the app is all those pieces. At the end, what it's going to do is engage AI here. And this is the part I want to show you. Like on those custom pieces that we developed here. So these 2 things, I want to show you how we're using some of the AI components to develop those. And at the end, we'll send getting started instructions. So what these getting started instructions are, they look something like this email. So this is the one, workers' compensation is ready. If you want to log in to see the service intake page, you can click here. And then it built out all of those forms for us underneath that page. So this logs you into the instance. Well, it gives you a login, like an end user to use when you log in. But it builds a series of services. Good old demos. It builds a series of services that I told it to build. So it built the Nebraska Workforce Advantage. Now, all this text, I did not give it in my catalog item. AI figured all this out. It also built a Workforce Recovery Nebraska. So this is the first. So one of these was my first report of injury online. So AI figured all this stuff out. Like, what do I put in there? What do I call it? What is the description of it? And then this is one that was from my template, the plain template that came in. So I could go ahead and use any of these that I need to from the email right now. So I can go ahead and run these forms. And I've done that before. I'm not going to do it today. The other thing it does is gives you an agent login. So the agent can go interact with the services that were built by AI or the services that were built by the template. So all those are live, but this is the agent that has all the right permissions to go in and actually answer those transactions. So I have actually an insurance claims agent that can come in and receive those workers' comps claim. And this is a big pain in the neck for people. They develop the form and then they're like, oh, how do I test this thing? Well, I was able to submit it, but I can't test it because I don't have an agent. I don't have the right permissions to do that. So they're trying to figure it out and they're fumbling around. Well, we take care of all that for you in the factory. And then if the IT side, if you want to log incidents or you want to do something against that, we built 2 specific things that let you interact with the common service data model. So for workers' compensation, after it was built, it's going to build this little workers' compensation support directory in your employee center. And then what you would be able to do in there is actually submit the tickets that you have on the common service data model. Okay, so I think this piece, I didn't have those in the template, and that's why it didn't show up. But typically there would be some default forms in there that would let you interact with that. Okay, now what it did also is it built the CSDM for me underneath this. Right, so this part where AI will generate some names, and then after AI creates these components, it will actually build my data models. Okay, so here, if I'm starting out with the main service, which I created a business service, right? That is our workers' compensation claim. And then you can see here all the offerings that we have are now labeled underneath here. So this is your IT support side is built. And then also, if we go back to the email, you can see the industry data models. So these are all your CSDM or all your CSM pieces. So for those of you that worked with service definitions and case types, that's all built out for you. So these are all being parked in the right table. So you don't have to worry about what table to extend, or are we using the right end users, or do we have the right permissions for the agents? That's all done here.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Alan Prohaska. Is that just an ordinary dependency map that you displayed on the service?
It is. Yeah.
And so AI built the CIs and the relationships, and then you're just displaying it?
It's actually just a regular workflow that builds these, but AI built these like workforce recovery and Nebraska workforce. AI built those, and then it asks the workflow to add those to our business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's perfect transition, Alan, because that's what I'm going to jump into right now is actually show you
You're
those
welcome.
AI chunks, because that's the real meat here.
You
So
mean
all that,
it just it just created the relationships in the rel table. That's what you mean. And as
and
a
the
result,
object.
it's showing, yes,
Yeah.
showing on the map.
Yeah.
One other
Yeah,
quick
kind of like we did,
question,
Lou, when
John.
you were doing those dependencies. Yep,
Yeah,
sorry.
right on.
When this is built and put into production, does the CMDB discover it automatically and log the CIs?
So this will go on the bill of materials, and that's the next part. Like, what if the citizen developer gets far enough with this app and they're comfortable with it and they want to promote it? So we actually keep track in the factory, like a bill of materials that we built with this template, because these are not scoped. So those will have to come over in the BOM when we pass it to the dev team that would actually promote a citizen developed application. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and that's a part that I'm still trying to figure out on this. I'm really just working on, can we get the citizen developer close enough, right, to where they can come in and all they have to worry about is business logic, right? So if I go in here now, I can get right into this citizen developer console, and I have the tables that the factory built. I have all of the forms for the end users, right? So it built these two tables, extending the right data models, right? Because it built it on top of financial services, which is the insurance data model. It gives me all my record producers. So if I want to change those, I can go ahead and change them. And you can see it also gives me all of my forms for the agents. So if I want to change that agent experience when I go in. And with these templates, you can really, there's no limit to it in terms of, you can add logic and automation. So I can add playbooks and workflows as part of the template. And I can even have AI create some of that logic and workflows for me. But that'll come later. I did start on AI creating a playbook for me. And I'll show you some of that when we get to the other part of the interaction. Okay, so that's in the email too, right? Is, hey, I've never seen ServiceNow before. I'm a developer in some department, and I just developed this workers' comp thing. I want to go check it out. Well, you can use it, but they can also edit it. So if they wanted to take the Nebraska workforce page, like that form that AI developed for me, they could pop that form open, that record producer, and template is not for the producer that was, I just upgraded yesterday. So let me see if I can. I upgraded App Engine yesterday, but usually this will let you edit those record producers so that they can come in here, and you only got to teach a citizen developer 3 things. One, I have to teach them a table structure. Like this is my workers' compensation claim table. And they need to be able to go into workers' compensation claim table and change the data model if they want to. So if they're coming off an Excel spreadsheet, they should be able to come in and say, these are the columns in my spreadsheet. 2, they need to understand what the form looks like. So they'll try the forms out and they'll be able to edit those forms. So, and then 3, they need to, this is more advanced, right? Do our citizen developers, you actually say, hey, you can do a simple workflow to do an approval, or you can do a simple playbook to give instructions to the agents. Right? So those are the only 3 things you need to teach that citizen developer so that they can get started. But the point is that they're already in a workers' comp application. They're not in something that says, create new app, and then you have to define all your new tables and know what to do and understand permissions for the agents. We just bring them right here so that there's real content in there, real workflows, and real data models, right? That's the idea. Now, the part I want to take you back to is when we kick off that workflow, right? So when we go here and we submit that form, this is the workflow, the digital product factory build flow. So that's the part that Alan was kind of jumping ahead to. So what it does is it's going to grab the catalog variables, say, hey, what did you give me on? Well, I told you first notice of loss. I told you who my developers were, citizen developers that I want to send an email like the one I just showed you. And I give you some instructions in there. And that's basically what it's going to do. It's going to have those to start working with. So I'm going to fast forward because what it's going to do right here is the first time it uses AI. So this is going to use our generic prompt. And this is going to go out to Gemini. And it's going to say, because usually after you get your demand in and we're starting to build this, now you have to get some people to do business analysis. Well, if I talk to Gemini or any general purpose LLM, and I say, you're a content creator, right? You have this new digital product that you're doing workers' compensation claims on. Go ahead and give me a description of that. So pretty basic instructions. I only want the description output with no special characters. So even though I gave it that little bit of business requirement, it went out and figured I'm from the state of Nebraska. I'm doing workers' compensation. Hey, what else? Like, give me all this context. So Gemini responded with this, the official resource for Nebraska employees injured at work, right? So it took all of that and gave me this short description within the parameters that I asked it for. And so this is context now that people have when they go in and oh, I understand what that means. Right? So that's a generic prompt that we're using in there. Now, when we come down further and this is all my permissions, user roles, create the users if they're not there. So it'll actually create the developer users based on their email. And then at the end, what it's going to do, it's going to build, this is the part that builds the data models. So this is going to build my CSM data models and my CSDM data models. And it's still not AI, right? But this is the part, if we wanted to go into this subflow, it'll actually show how I'm building those out. And as Lou mentioned, building the relationships between the product models in CSM and then the CIs for CSDM. All right. And then the next part of AI where we get into a couple different pieces, it's going to go in and it now says, hey, there was a first notice of loss and there was the adding evidence. There were these pieces that were not there before. So I don't have anything in my template to accommodate that. I don't know what a first notice of loss is. So I have this new kind of branch. So if you think about it, a factory, right? It's going down it builds the basic car and now it's adding pieces onto that car. So this is where this is all AI generated content in terms of the catalog item gets generated, the agent side gets generated, as well as anything else in there that you've done with the description. So the content for the catalog item. So in here, if I open this Subflow, right, because this says, hey, AI, I don't have these things, so go build them. So what the Subflow context will do here, if I go in and look at this trace, is it first says, hey, we asked for this thing in Nebraska, and this was this the first? It will give you the name of the service, which I think I missed here, and then it'll come back, and it says here in the prompt response, it gives me, because I'm just asking it to define this. So here this is the definition of the first notice of loss. Okay, so this is what AI wrote for me so that I was able to give the context that citizen developer. Okay, after that, I turn into a different type of person, right? I need somebody to describe it for me in detail, and maybe that's a BRM, but I also need somebody to promote this thing, right? I need this thing to sing when I get it out on the portal. So in this case, I'm a brand specialist working for the state of Nebraska, and I have this description for this new service we're deploying, or a new product, which includes all the services. And I want to have a great name for this service. So this is the one that said, hey, it's not first notice of loss. We're going to call it Workforce Recovery Nebraska. So this is Gemini came back with this response. Okay. Okay, now this is one where we go out and we now give it the description of the service as well as the service name. And now we say, start building my content. So this is where we come back and we want to use a Now Assist LLM. So we don't want to use Gemini for this, because what ServiceNow understands really well is how to build ServiceNow apps. So what this will do is it's going to take it, and it's a custom skill using the Now Assist skill kit. So it's actually going to build our model for that first notice of claim. So it creates all of the parameters that go inside of my record producer, basically the form for the end user, and it's going to create all that. So what I'm doing here is in this Now Assist record producer, I'm actually calling this skill that I developed here. So this skill tells it, it says, hey, we have this new requirement to build a form on the portal, and I need your help, right? So the form, it's going to take in the service description that Gemini created, and now it's going to pass that description to the Now LLM, because Gemini has the whole internet, right? And the Now LLM doesn't have the whole internet indexed. So we have a good description, we have a good name. So now it says, build me the right parameters for my record producer. So what it's able to do is it uses the Now LLM, right? And if I run this test, it will go ahead and, right, this is just some default data I have in there. But now I could test my prompt, and I could say, is my prompt developing the right content to feed back into my workflow? Okay, so this is exactly, and this is super valuable because you could test your prompts here. You can version your prompts. You can switch LLMs around. So this is one of my favorite pieces is, making sure you got this right and making sure you could parameterize your prompts before you go ahead and ingest them. And several times when I started tweaking this, I said, hey, it's not exactly right. So I was able to go back in versions. There's a lot of cool things on here too. You can see if you get really into it, like how many tokens you're using to do a call. So all of that you can get inside of here as you start looking at the different pieces of the prompt. So when you're developing prompts and you're trying to understand, what it's going to take and what it's going to use, all these different pieces really come into handy. So it's not just developing a prompt and shooting it out to ChatGPT or Gemini. It's actually putting some real thought into what we're doing and then the capacity for these things. Okay, so that's where it really comes in, using Now Assist and getting all of your LLMs that you want set up, and then being able to kind of version your different prompts that you're using inside the workflows or inside because these prompts can go to the workflows like I'm using it for, but you could also use that prompt inside of a form itself. I keep going back to like chat summarization or incident summarization. Like these are things that we give you out of the box, but this is one I needed that was special because it took things in from Gemini, right? So it developed that prompt for me, or it developed the output for me. Right, so that's what I get here is I get this response and I tell the Now LLM, I say, this is the description of the service. So in the Now Assist skill kit, it's going to plug in that service description right here and build that prompt. And then it's going to go ahead and run. And what that gives me back is it gives me basically a model that I can start to use. That's a JSON model. Right? Now, what I do just to double check, right? I want to make sure, because this is a tricky part when you have a non-deterministic output from an LLM and you're trying to make it into a JSON format, that gets a little tricky. So what I did here is I called Gemini again and I said, hey, Gemini, make sure this is a valid JSON. This is what I got back. Make sure that it's a valid JSON set. So the Now LLM gave me some special characters and things. So what they did out in Gemini or Claude or whatever you're using, right, is it came back and it said, this is now a valid JSON set. I made 100% sure that, it's formatted properly and it starts with the right type of format, and even wrapped it in these little JSON areas. So here I've used 4 different calls. They're pretty simple calls. I don't need to go into like pro models and do deep research or anything like that. But that's basically what this is building out. And now what it's going to do, it's going to, clean up the results. So this is typical workflow now. So here I'm going back out and I'm stripping off what I need, like JSON in the end. So just a little JavaScript to get the JSON off and just give me a little bit of formatting. And then at the end, I'm actually going to be able to create my record. So now I could just iterate through and create all of these fields that AI created, that AI picked up for me, create all of these fields in my template. Right. So one by one, you'll see that it goes through and creates that record producer. Now at the end, what it's going to do, it's the same thing as our template did. So now it's going to say, hey, I got this new form that's going to let people submit first notice of loss for their workers' comp. But I still need to build the CSDM model and I still need to build the CSM model, right? So that's where this flow comes in and it builds out all those pieces and all those dependencies. Right. So at the end of each one of those, if I added 10 additional services into my pack that I want, it's going to create the models for each of those 10 services. Kind of like we saw here where it put these in, right? So it adds those on. Right. So I know I went through a lot there. I'm going to pause if anybody has any questions on anything. So we saw the generative AI controller and the Now Assist skill kit so far.
John, there was one question in chat. What is the model name where you were creating those prompts?
The model. Oh, that's the Now Assist skill kit. You mean the actual?
I wasn't sure, Tio, if you want to come offline. I don't know if they meant originally some of the prompts you were doing with Gemini too. So maybe, let's see.
Hey, John. Yeah, actually, I was referring to that, to Now Assistant or the skill set module. That's the one you have right now showing. I'm not familiar that much with that module, but is that something new that has been new integrated?
The Now Assist skill kit has been around for a while. And yeah, the idea here is I'm only using the Now LLM here, but you can use any of the LLMs you have set up when you develop that. So that's part of Now Assist. I think it's the platform piece. I'm not 100% sure, but I think when you get any Now Assist, you get the Now Assist skill kit. Did that answer your question?
Yes, actually it does. Thank you.
Now on the skill kit too, let me show you. So when you do, let's say you have skills for, like you bought Now Assist for ITSM, right? So these will give you all of the out of the box skills over here. and I have creator, so flow generation is one of the skills I have. But then what I'm doing here is I'm showing you a totally custom one, right, where I generated catalog variables. Yeah, so this is a fun little thing to play with as a developer. You just have to have it, right? You have to have that Now Assist skill kit in there. I know some people get mad on the call when I showed them stuff they don't have yet, but that's the topic for today. Any other questions, Peter?
There was one more about is there a way to roll back CSDM structure changes if there are hallucinations?
There definitely is. So this is in dev, right? And that's the idea, is because I'm working with a citizen developer. So the way to go in, and those are just in the table itself. So if you do change the name of one of those catalog items, you do have to go back and change the name of the service. So you will have to do that in development before it's promoted. There's not a way in the factory right now to say, hey, I changed this name. So there's not like a flow or a business rule that goes and changes the name of the corresponding services. That's all manual right now. Definitely something I think about in the backlog, though, is I want that to sync up with my CSDM structure when somebody changes the name, because I'm using the catalog item or the record producer to actually generate all of that data model for me. But I'm hoping in the future, right, that we'll be able to automate some of that. Mike says he's doing the same thing. So you're automating the build, Mike, of your business services and your service offerings?
Yeah, so I was responding to, we are doing that to a degree. I'm trying to figure that out to a degree. So what we're doing is on a manual piece right now. I was speaking to the whole, we have questions that we're trying to figure out because we're trying to clean up our business app table. And then based on that, there should be a workflow that comes through that builds that whole piece out, the app service to the service offering, to the business service, to the capability. And so, so to be able to feed those questions or to use an LLM to say, hey, industry standard, this is not something new. People have been doing this for a long time. Let's leverage the LLM to be able to give us the questions, and also if we could have a conversation with the LLM to then determine, one, is this really a business app? Because if we start out right from the beginning, then we're screwed up all the way through the whole workflow. So I was answering the piece.
Yeah, so that's a big conversation, is what goes into those templates. And like the part I'm working on now is, what if we want a payment like a payment in a standard service that we can just plug into a template? So I can say here, oh yeah, on here I want a payment, and maybe I want a geographical map from Google or Esri, right? So I can just kind of flick on those integrations as I go as part of the template. So yeah, determining like where you put those customizations, like at what level, is it the first level template, or is it kind of a side tool that I'm going to use in all my templates? That's been pretty tricky. The only thing here that the hallucination will affect is the names, right? So if something hallucinates and it creates a silly name like workforce recovery, I still will have to come in here to my form and change the service offering name. So the most that it could affect in the data model is going to be these names. Or if it's totally off and you want to delete it, right? But here, instead of workforce recovery in Nebraska, I could just do, I could just change this first notice of loss if I wanted to call that data model different than what my form's called. Okay, I want to get into another piece here so that I can show you another piece of AI. So the part that gets really cool with AI is now moving into, and I want to get to agentic before we're done, but moving into conversational interfaces. And this is what's getting really exciting for me, is how can I get more information, more context than what I have today? So what we can do here is we can start to use, because that catalog item I showed you in the beginning, right? That catalog item it's just asking for some basic text. What's the name of your program? How are you, what additional services do I need to add that's not in the template? So now this starts chatting you up and giving you more information. So here, I'm going to say digital product factory build, and it's going to start walking me through basically an agentic or no, this is agentic. This is just a catalog. This is just going to ask you the questions to fill out the variables, right? So here I can get started, and immediately the conversational interface takes over for me, right? As long as you have that Now Assist and virtual agent. Now this part is actually AI agents, right? And this is where we say, I have a special workflow where I'm going to prompt the user and have a conversation with them about filling out this form. Okay, so now this whole new world of AI on the front end is, this is like really blows my mind. So instead of asking them to fill this form out like this, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start saying that I want you to fill it out, right? So here I have Digital Product Factory Agentic Build Request, and I want to start filling that out. I can type that in here and it'll ask me, what template do you want to use? What's the name of your company? Do you have any developers you want to add? So Now Assist will have a basic conversation with you about that, right? And it's pretty straightforward. It only uses the context from the form you develop, right? So what this will do is this will use the context from here and it says, what's your template you want to use? Name of the product, right? So it's pretty straightforward and it's limited to the content that's inside of your catalog item. Okay, so that is when you make your catalog item conversational, you don't have to come into the portal anymore. Instead, I can just go right into the any of the Now Assists, and I can go ahead and run that. Right, so that will build digital products for industries, and then it'll start asking you one by one. It'll start asking you about the different fields. Okay, so this is the LLM giving you some basic instructions. And then the LLM is looking at your field and saying, how can I format this question to ask somebody something smart? Right. So now it's going to go in and it's going to ask me, where do I want to build this? Right. I want to build it for government. And then the government, we know we have certain templates available that help government users or help insurance users. Right. So that's a basic step one of a conversational interface. Is I'm not filling out a form anymore. I'm answering questions in a virtual agent. So that's using Now Assist, the conversational interface on a catalog item. And I want to differentiate this from AI agents. Let's see if there's any. So that's the part I showed you. If you just go into catalog item, like on our main screen, when we were doing the demo, if you just go into that catalog item, it will show you that you have, you can make it conversational, right? So that's kind of this one here. Now the next one is, now I want more context. And this is where the agents are just invaluable, right? So here, if I come in and I go into, and just to make sure, I didn't show this before, but inside of here, there's a AI agents. Okay. And if you click on overview, that'll bring you to this. And you can see here that there are AI agents that are out of the box, right? If you have the AI agents for ITSM, for example, or CSM, you'll get a lot of ones that are built for you. And then you'll get the ones that you could build yourself. Right, so I built this digital product factory assistant workflow. And then what I'm telling it is don't just gather information, but ask the user to select a template. And let's have more interaction with that user other than just saying, hey, fill in those fields, which is a great step forward because I'm not typing in a form anymore. But this is where you really accelerate it. So I could say here, let me test this real quick. So if I go into the Digital Product Factory Assistant, now that's available through, well, I'll show you. So I can come up here and run this, but I want to show you just in the test field. So if I wanted to go in here and say, I want to run a workflow and I want to run the Digital Product Factory Assistant and build a new product. Right now it's going to start to do some additional things. It's going to start to get smarter about telling you what this will create for you. And then it'll also be able to go out and do some industry research. So this is where we get more context along the way, and you could have it, tell you what that context is. So this is calling the agent that's going to say, hey, give me a list of all the different templates that I could start with. Like, what can I build my base from? So here you'll see that it introduces itself. And then after it introduces itself, it's going to start asking you and prompting you for that same context, like the catalog item did.
Hey, John, I got a quick thought on all this real quick.
Sure.
So depending on where you are, like you're starting with the product, which is cool. So you're starting it, and I'm thinking from the CSDM itself as you're coming from design and coming all the way through, and you're mimicking all those conversations that need to take place to build the entire blueprint of the CSDM. Be awesome to be able to start where you're at based on your persona and all of that. So maybe you're starting at a business application, and then it would build whatever the product is or how that works. So depending on where you are, maybe you're coming in from the business capability, and you say, okay, these are your options of a product or a business application, or you're trying to create a business. If people are coming in the middle of things, it'd be cool that if the agent could pick up on that and then fill in the gaps or redirect them somewhere. I'm thinking of all the builders we have out there. Like you have the app service builder, you have the catalog builder, you have the service builder, that kind of thing. So if you're coming and what you're building here is kind of part of all of those builders itself, and then it redirects people to the right way of doing things, because you end up having these silos in different places, and your CSDM can get out of scope if you don't truly have an enterprise architecture governance coming through on that whole thing. It seems like almost an agent could direct you in a governance way.
Yeah. And that's where the people are, when I show them this and I show them the governance wrapped around it, they're not afraid of giving it to citizen developers because they can't get out of that scope. Like you're not going to have a million update sets floating around and trying to track them all down and what they did.
Yeah.
The only part like outside of the scope is the CSDM model. So I have to keep track of that bomb with whatever they do in the scope. So but I wish CSDM was scoped. It'd make it easy, because then you're just porting the CSDM changes with the app. So here's what I'm talking about. So here it's actually being more personal now. It says, hey, I'm your Andre, your agent, right? Here's all the templates that I have available. Would you like to build one? Now, here, instead of just having to pick one, right, I could say, hey, I want number 3. And then it's going to say, are you sure you want number 3? Right? Andre's going to have a conversation with you. And he's going to say that inside of number 3, you don't just get one service for health and human services, but you're building a product with multiple services in it. So it's going to give you 3 services to let you apply, appeal, or give it a general inquiry about a social program. But it's also going to give you IT support forms to let you report a service interruption or file an enhancement, right? So now this is different than being in a form or being in a simple conversational interface. Now the agent is going out. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're running out of time. But my idea here is he knows I'm from Nebraska. He knows so he can go out and get some context. Hey, I see you developed this food assistance program last year. Do you want me to grab that form off your website and use it as a basis? Right. So maybe you say, no, that thing's horrible, right? But this one's better. Let me give you one. So this is where you start to really think is, how can that citizen developer with stuff that they know feed context into here? Or how can this go out and learn about the whole insurance ecosystem with like a knowledge graph? Because I could build a knowledge graph in 30 seconds with an LLM. So the context that you can build here before you go in and just say, yeah, build a form, right? It's just incredible. And that's what I really like about this interface, because now I'm chatting with, like in these scenarios, I'm chatting with a bunch of agents that can do whatever I want them to do. They can go out and do some research, come back and ask me to validate the research. They can give me a list like this and say, are you sure you want this? And if I say no, it can go back and let me pick another template and see what's in there. So it's really cool where you can go with this. I'll show you a little bit of just about the playground here. So if I'm going in and managing these agents, And mine's a little slow because I'm on the PDI instance, but on your instances, this would be much quicker. But if you go into the AI agents, I'll show you what I'm doing with just the two that I have in here, just starting on this. But it does go all the way through and submit a ticket, right? It go ahead and submit the actual request for the factory in the end. It just has way more context from our conversation than simply saying, I want to use this template and name it this, and here's the extra things I want. Like it gets all that other template, all that other additional information. All right, so here, if I go into create and manage, and I'm going to just pull that up so I can show you the pieces. And then, okay, so I'm going to go into the workflows and show you that one. So the digital product factory assistant is the one I just ran for you. And this is like a developer's paradise, right? You could do so much with this. So here it's giving me some general instructions on what I need to do. And then after that, it's going in and it's saying, what tools do I need to do that? So it's, in a way. So the tools that I'm using, like I can use an LLM call, I can use a workflow, I can use any tool that I need as I go through here to answer these questions. So it might be just go ahead and do a query. It might be use my general purpose LLM, use my Now LLM. So in the conversation, I can do any of those calls with that specific tooling. All right, I want to show you one thing. So where I'm going, this is the part where I'm going to probably spend a lot of time on the factory because like doing those knowledge graphs and reaching out. But this conversational interface here with the agents becomes especially interesting because of all that context you can gather. All right, I went through those, just the quick demo. I didn't want to step through them all step by step, but this I think is really exciting piece. I'm going to stop share for a minute and then I want to show you this last part. So this 3 months ago was impossible, but now what you can do, right, once you get the conversational interface and you're texting back and forth, now what you can do
things about the work you guys do
is start to have agents like this.
Navigate the AI landscape. What's your name, by the way?
My name is John.
Nice to meet you, John. ServiceNow. That's some cool stuff you're working with. What's your favorite part about being a consultant? John, is it helping customers find creative solutions or seeing the impact of your work on their businesses?
I work in government, so I really like helping out the government space especially.
That's really cool, John. I can tell you're passionate about your work, and it's awesome that you're making a difference in the government space. I'm sure it's rewarding to know that your efforts are contributing to the greater good.
I'd like you to say a couple things to the consultants that are on the line about AI. What do you think they should do to be ready for the future?
Thanks for the kind words, John. To all the consultants listening in, I'd say this. AI is a wave that's already started to shape our future, and it's crucial to catch it now. Keep learning about AI, its capabilities, and its limitations. Experiment with AI tools and platforms to understand how they can enhance your work and the services you offer. Consider how AI can automate routine tasks, provide insights from data, and improve customer interactions. Also think about how you can use AI to make your services more human-centric. It's not just about replacing humans with machines, but about using AI to free up time for more creative, empathetic, and high-value work. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found our chat informative and helpful.
Thank you very much, Charlie. It was great talking to you. I worked on this with Dustin, who spoke on one of our calls not too long ago. And the cost of doing something like this was almost $30 an hour. You had to have two big machines with like honking GPUs on it. And now companies are offering interfaces like this as a service. And because we have our agents, they're already LLMs and it's already conversational driven. We can plug in a front end like this, where they're having a conversation with a person like Charlie about building their own product in this use case, right? But it's really interesting to see how these conversational interfaces are progressing. And there's other things along the way too. Like as I go, hey, I'm building that catalog item, I'm putting a description in there, but I want to also put a picture in there for it. Well, there's all kinds of picture generators out there with these LLMs. So the use cases for this is just enormous, right? And taking a simple thing that we're so used to for the last 30 years, I've been working on this stuff, you get an idea, turns into a demand. There's some BRMs a couple months later, pick it up. After that, after they pick it up, maybe get it over to some developers with some rough requirements. And then 6 months later, you see something. Now you fill in a form and 10 minutes later, bang, you got something that's working, right? So you don't have to wait that 6 months. Maybe now you take that little micro thing that you did and you said, hey, this is what I had in mind. This is where I started. I talked to Charlie. He helped me build it. It's kind of blown my mind, all the possibilities here with AI. So that's all I had for today. I wanted to share this use case with you and then make sure that you saw some of the practical applications of things, other than what's out of the box with ServiceNow. We're generating tons of agents, and you'll see that in the deck. I'll show you real quick where I gave you access to all the stuff we're doing. So if you go in to the AI here and you click on that, it'll give you a whole rundown of what we're doing in AI, some of the skills. Before you asked me about the interface, the skill kit, the Now Assist admin interface. So this way you'll have some of this information at your fingertips. And I'll show you one of the ones. So that's the Now Assist skill kit. And then there's just a list of agents that we're developing. So I did a couple custom ones today for our use case, but there's a whole list of ones that we're developing here. All of our product managers basically have instructions. Do it with AI first. And if you're not going to implement that with AI, I want to know why. Right. So all these out of the box agents that you'll see coming in the areas, a lot of it's going to be doing a little bit of customization on your own, but then figuring out which ones we have out of the box already, kind of like you're doing today. So this is the screen I was looking for. This is a list of all the ones that are available today. And I haven't pulled any of those in yet, but I'm going to pull some of those into my workflow. All right, that's it for today, everybody. I'll send the deck over. I'll get it out by the weekend, and hopefully you'll find it useful.
Hey, John, I have a quick question if you have some time.
I do, yeah.
So I was wondering, what about the agents? Can we integrate external agents? Like if we have agents in the cloud, like Azure, AWS, can we integrate them here within ServiceNow?
You can. Yeah, there's a lot of work being done there. If we have one of our AI specialists on the phone, they could tell me what the integration method is, but there's a special thing for integrating agents that we have that we use.
Great, then. Sounds good then. Looking forward to hearing that then.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, and I hear them mention it all the time. I forget what that interaction is called.
No worries. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions? I got a few minutes. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'll talk to you.
John, I have one really quick. So I just want to make sure, that differentiation there. So seeing that you had Now Assist and then you had the whole agentic piece there, but when you were just on Now Assist, until we were to get AI agent on to take full advantage of your agents and things like that, let's say we have our own LLM in-house, or we have our own co-pilot in-house that we utilize. We could leverage that with Now Assist even without the AI agent, right? So if you built that flow in, you said, hey, go out using your Now Assist, go out to your co-pilot, have that conversation of building out your product, your digital product, and feed that information back in. That's separate, right? So there's two different things that you could do, iterate to it.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is a split here. Like you won't get this,
right?
Like in the panel you won't have, but you will get the conversational catalog items and the genius results, right?
Okay, and that where you're actually having it in your even not the interface itself even, but you had that in the workflow. Yes, you are talking the same thing. Never mind. You're good. Yep. You're good.
Yeah, and then here where you set that is if you do want to use our LLM when you have it in the Now Assist admin, it lets you in the settings, it lets you pick the LLM you want to use for the conversational interfaces. I think out of the box, it's going to use the Now LLM. But if you want to switch that, all you have to do is come in here and then switch that for the conversational interfaces, and it'll start to use whatever LLM you want to.
Cool. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, right here. I'm using Azure actually for mine right now.
Yeah. It makes you want to come to work every day just to figure out what the new thing is for AI.
Legit.
It's hard going to sleep, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot
I
of fun
feel-
playing with it.
Yeah.
It
I hate when I
is.
have to do my real job, then I can't play with this. All right. Thank you, everybody. Fun meeting.
Bye bye, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.